Right, okay, welcome back. We just spent an hour or so where we get into brand valuation. Right? This is the most interesting part of branding where you have to get into a little bit of numbers, and there are multiple ways of how you can measure a brand. Because most of the time, brand is seen as very intangible, and you cannot touch it, you cannot feel it, and it takes a rightful place in the balance sheet where it gets into the asset side as a goodwill. How are we going to measure it is always a contention. So lots of debates goes on. This is the right way, this is not the right way. How are we going to measure our brand? But before that, first and foremost, should we really measure our brand? Right? What does the measuring our brand means? Does it make sense to measure a brand, and when are we going to use this measurement? Just think for a moment, I might come back and say Coca-Cola as a brand is measured, valued at $100 million, example, $100 billion, BN. But what does it mean to somebody who is snatching a bottle of Coca-Cola? 100 billion doesn't mean anything at all. So there's one premise which comes back and talks about measuring a brand makes sense when you're looking at selling off the brand on a later date. Right? Or whenever there's a split in a family. A good example is like the Reliance. When the brothers were fighting and they were splitting, at that point of time, brand valuation came in very handy. It was so easy to go back and divide the products, the companies based on a few valuation, and then it was seen as a very amicable settlement. On the other side, brand valuation gives a kick to marketers at large, and it's one of the most sought after events in USA. Every year in the month of October, a company by name Interbrand does this exercise. It's a jamboree, it's a huge jamela where you have the top people involved, the CEOs, the vice presidents, whole lot of them involved, where they go through this long process of brand valuation. So we're going to go back and look at those methods, and the method is called as the Interbrand method. An Interbrand, along with a business daily, every year, probably in its last 15th or 18th edition, goes after a kind of valuation.
कुछ भी आ ही नहीं रहे क्यों नहीं आ रहे थे आ गए तेरा मेरा आवाज क्यों आ रहा है तो क्या कर
Just give me a minute. I am connecting with Hari because I'm sharing the PowerPoint from here. I want Hari to take over my screen. Just give me a minute. Yeah, Hari. Oh, yeah, okay. Students were telling they're not able to see. That's why I called. Okay. Somebody, they said it's audible, but the slides are not visible. That's the message I got. That's why. Can you check once? Yeah. It's visible, right? It's visible. Okay, fine. Okay, then I'll go ahead. Okay, right, yeah. So let's move on. We're going to look at the most interesting part of branding, what's called brand valuation. I'm going to start off with a slide on the best global brands 2018 rankings by a company by name Interbrand. So Interbrand is a brand rating agency of huge repute in US, and along with Business Week every year they go through this Jamela. Clients wait, marketers wait with abated breath, and then with so much of interest, they would like to find what has been the valuation of the brand. You'll be stunned to know when you look at the number Apple 214 billion, we're not talking about the balance sheet of Apple, neither the reserves, neither the net profits, none of them. Today, if Apple sells its company or the brand name, sorry, not the company, the brand name, APPLE, the five letter word, what can accrue to companies 214 billion right on top. Google around $155 billion. They sell their five letter word. Amazon 101 billion, Microsoft 93 billion, Coca-Cola 66. You got Pepsi Cola around 36-40 billion, and the best thing is you don't even have one Indian company in top 200 ratings for last 2 decades. You do not even have one Indian company. And you got the real giants who make up the corporate world, Apple, the Google, the Amazons, Mercedes-Benz, Audis, you name, right? You have all the fashion brands, Coco Chanel, Yves Saint Laurent, you name, all of them take the rightful place in top 100. Any guesses why you don't find any Indian brand in the list? So this is from Interbrand, and then you also have another agency by name Brand Z. This is run by an ad agency, and they also do a brand valuation. This is for 2018, and the list is almost same: Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Tencent, Facebook, McDonald's, AT&T. Right? The list is almost unchanged except for a few shifts here or there. The point is, how do we do this brand valuation? So these numbers look mind-boggling, awe-inspiring. How do you arrive at this Apple number of $214 billion? To get it right, we're not talking about the balance sheet, we're not talking about the reserves, we're not talking about the net profits, we're not talking about probably the future years, what they've taken forward in terms of the profits, none of those. It's only the five letter word Apple. That's the measure what they're using for brand equity. So why only the brand name is what's so interesting. We'll go back and look at that. But we have started off by asking a question, what is brand equity? So these are some questions that comes into head. Is the brand equity the price at which a brand can be sold on a later date? Is measured by level of awareness of buying intention of next 10 purchases? Is brand loyalty a straight measure of brand equity? So what does it mean? If a brand has got a huge equity, does it mean that a loyalty would accrue to it? You don't have straightforward answers. But one of the easiest ways to put it across is brand equity means all of these and much above than all of these. But in common parlance, brand equity is seen as the price at which a brand can be sold. So it means there's a valuation attached, there's a number attached, there's a lot of number crunching that happens, and then you arrive at a final value. So we're going to go back and look at a couple of these methods where we can find the brand valuation to perfection. Okay, so one question should be coming into your head. Brand has got so many components. Brand has got a name, brand has got a logo, brand has got a symbol, brand has got a jingle, brand has got a packaging, brand has got so many elements. Why are we taking only the brand name? In other words, why are we not taking a brand logo? Why are we not taking the brand jingle? Why are we not taking the brand symbol? Why are we not taking a brand character? Can we have an answer for that? So why only brand name. You get the question right. Why are we talking of only a brand name for a brand valuation? We are not looking at the other components. Great. It's about the first thing that comes up to the mind. Okay, that's one way of putting it across. That's great, Alvin. But beyond that, there's also something. Brand name is something which is so permanent. Let's understand that. You don't afford to change the brand name so often. Right? Brand is a trademark. Okay, trademark is something which is kept permanent to the brand. They own it. A jingle can change, a logo can change, a brand character can change. Many times they keep changing. It's an intellectual property. Brilliant, Alvin. You're thinking fast. That's the power of a brand name. So what a brand name gives us, let's look at a few examples of how a brand name is. Let's say we go to US, and these are headache tablets in US. You got a buyer, one of the largest selling brand, and then you got a generic brand called CVS, right? Just a regular aspirin. Okay, one brand sells for 2 rupees 25 paise for a strip of 10, whereas a very reputed brand like Bayer sells at $6. A $2.25 paise for the same strip of 10 units versus $6. Where do you think the difference comes? Trust me, the formulation in both the products are one and the same. The chemical compositions are one and the same. Nothing different. Completely nothing different. Both of them provide the same kind of a relief. Fast, safe, pain relief, right? And the attribute on the benefit, they're almost similar. But where do you think the difference comes? Why do you think the brand is able to charge a super premium? Almost a 300% increase. As you guys rightly said, the brand name is an intellectual property. A brand name is a trademark. A brand name is an assurance. A brand name reminds you that it's coming from one of the largest company, which provides you superlative service all points of time. That's the power of a brand name. That's exactly the reason why brand name is gets in right into valuation, but not the other components. So why do we get into brand valuation? So we can look at from a two perspective, from a valuation perspective and a marketing perspective. First and foremost, a valuation perspective, you want to sell your brand, right? It can be few and far in between, but nevertheless, if you have to sell, you should know where to ballpark approximations you get into. So you're going to get a nice value for your brand. This is one way. Or whenever there's a legal dispute over brand names, right? When you have multiple agencies who are claiming the brand property belongs to them, at that point of time, you have one entity who would like to give it away or rather hold it on by getting something in return. That's where the brand valuation comes in. And there's something called an accounting fair value, where it's going to be mandatory probably from 2021, where the brand name has to be, where the brand has to be valued and this valuation has to be put into the balance sheet. If that becomes mandatory, there would be a scramble where every company would get into this brand valuation, which would become mandatory regulation. From a marketing perspective, advertising, spending, and evaluation. So what do you mean by advertising, spending, and evaluation? If I already have a huge brand name, I need not spend much on advertising. The reason is the brand name itself acts as a propeller. A propeller is something which attracts customers. Customers watch with abated breath for the launch of a new product, and you can reduce your brand expenditures to advertisement promotion to a large extent. Whereas an unknown brand which is coming into the market, first and foremost, they have to create tremendous amount of awareness. And to create awareness, advertising is the time-tested route. And to get into this time-tested route, you're going to blow on the top. So much of money is going to be sunk in. So you can get a lot of optimizations possible provided you have a strong brand name. And finally, the pricing strategies, when you have an established brand, the game is completely different. You get a premium. You can charge a premium. You can charge a super premium. Whereas if you're a product of a first order, of the latest of kind, new to the market, you don't have that bandwidth to go after charging a premium. Right? So many advantages when you have a strong brand. And that's why we started off this day telling that most of the companies aim to have a brand like Nike, brand like Walmart, they won't have a brand like Apple, but they really do not know what goes in making of such a strong brand. So we have seen how we build a strong brand. Now we're going to go back and look at if you have built a strong brand, how do we get into valuations? We just saw this, the power of the brand name, and many of us know Harry Potter. Many of us would have loved reading Harry Potter. Why do you think Harry Potter is such a strong brand? Last valuation for Harry Potter as a brand name was almost around 22 billion US dollars, around 22 billion US dollars. We're talking about what? Harry Potter. So what makes Harry Potter so strong, so powerful brand? And we're talking about Harry Potter, about a book, a character, where in these days where reading habit is on the wane, where it's all about getting into Pokemons, where it's all about getting into computer games, right? You're probably you that's what the younger generations want, be in the mobile phone. How has Harry Potter probably been head over shoulders when compared to a whole lot of other characters? Also think for a moment, when you get into literature, you don't find any other brand which stands tall like a Harry Potter. So powerful. Either it's a film which is being made or the fourth or the fifth book coming in from the home of Harry Potter. This is a powerful brand. So what makes Harry Potter powerful? You have some analysts who come back and talk about a narrative, an ambiguity, a mystery, an entertainment. In short, they use an acronym called NAME, NAME. Narrative, ambiguity, mystery, entertainment. So what's a narrative? Narrative is simple, straightforward. It's about fantasy. It's about something which is dark. It's about something where a normal human would never even dare of thinking. Where a narrative is about everything right from people waiting in long queues to buy the book, books going out of supply, and the author, when she wanted to publish Rowling's, when she wanted to publish the first book, you had three other publishers who rejected her, telling that Harry Potter story is not worth publishing. It's about the church going against Harry Potter, telling that it's anti-church. So you had one story or another, one story or other coming in quick succession. That's a narrative. And that made the brand to be kept in the zone or in the orbit all point of time. And those of you who are big fans of Harry Potter, there's a lot of ambiguity, and ambiguity comes in different ways. Even though it is set in the past, it takes you into the present. Even though it's about the good, it's about the bad. It's about the bad and the good, it's about the good and the evil. Right? And it keeps going back and forth, and it's something of a mystery which keeps you guessing. Right? A whole lot of mystery elements are inbuilt, and there's a lot of entertainment. So much of entertainment gets into Harry Potter. But what's the after results of having such a strong brand? After the Bible and after a book on communist called Thoughts of Chairman Mayo, MAO, this has been the world's third largest book, almost 770 million copies sold and going strong. Bible number one, right on top. Thoughts of Chairman Mayo, all about communist. Book number two, of course, China, so you got large numbers population buying it. But one book which has had a tectonic shift, which shook the earth in people buying in large numbers of Harry Potter, almost 700 million plus books sold till date and going strong. That's the narrative, that's the mystery, that's the entertainment, what Harry Potter has got as a brand. So everything about this brand has become iconic. Right? The brand name itself is iconic. The symbol is about the lightning streak, which is part of the brand iconic symbol of Harry Potter. The films which have been shot, right, and all those locales have become a must visit for kids. EFL teachers, English foreign language teachers, have started suggesting Harry Potter book as an English language course. And you have a lot of words which have come into English language, like Slytherin, right? A whole lot of Quidditch, whole lot of words have come into the English language parlance, and dictionaries have started taking these words as something accepted. And kids have started visiting all those locales which have been shot in the films. And the best thing, owls, OWL, the bird, have become the most sought after pet. After probably cats and dogs have taken a back seat. And today, more and more kids want to go and join a residential school thanks to Harry Potter. And that's the impact what this brand has done. That's the story of Harry Potter. Because you've so many strong brands. Virgin is a strong brand. One point of time, Sony is a strong brand. Richard Probably Harley Davidson is a strong brand, or Walt Disney is a strong brand. So all of these are called power brands which have stood the test of time. So what makes these brands so powerful in terms of valuation is what we're going to spend the next 20-30 minutes. Let's get back. So what is brand equity as a concept? So one of the way of looking at brand equity is more in terms of a theoretical framework. The other one is in terms of a number framework. Let's reserve the number framework a few minutes from now, but let's look at brand equity in terms of a theoretical framework. One of the easiest ways of putting across what a brand is a set of assets linked to a brand name and symbol that adds value to the firm and to the firm's customer. That's it, simple. A set of assets. So what do you mean by an asset? We talk of assets. Property, what we own is an asset. Stock market investment, what we make is an asset. So what do you do with an asset? You obtain an asset, you keep measuring the asset from time to time, and then you also ensure you maintain the asset. Same thing happens here. So here you're looking at a set of assets which is linked to the brand's name and symbol. What does it do? It adds value to the firm and to firm's customer. That's to the company and to company's customer. Now the question is, what are those assets which is linked to a brand name? There are 5 categories of assets which are linked to a brand name. That includes brand loyalty, brand awareness, perceived quality, brand association, and other proprietary assets. So these are 5 different assets a brand name possesses. And this is what brand equity is. And this model is one of the ways of how we can understand the concept of brand equity. Let's start off with brand awareness. So when we talk of brand awareness, it takes us back to what we went through when we were talking about the CBB model, a customer-based brand equity model. Right? And brand awareness we spoke about in terms of salience. In salience, the brand awareness gets expressed in 2 terms, what's called as the depth of awareness and breadth of awareness. The depth and the breadth. We saw the example of Campbell, we looked at the example of Tropicana. That's one way of looking at brand awareness. But a much broader way of looking at brand awareness would be in these 4, what's called as recognition, recall, top of the mind, dominance. Right? So these are the 4 essential components of brand awareness. First and foremost, what is brand awareness? In most simplest terms, it is strength of brand's presence in customer's mind. How much is the brand present in customer mind? So either it's present or not present. If it's present, it's seen as strong CBB. If the brand is not present, means there's not going to be an engagement in the purchase. That's the power of awareness. Remember this, one school of thought comes back and says brand is just a thought which exists in customers' heads. A brand exists in a customer head, and if there is no thought, the brand doesn't exist at all. That's the power of awareness. So let's go back and look at what are the components of brand awareness. Recognition, recall, top of the mind, dominance. So what does brand recognition mean? You're asking a question, do you know the brand or you do not know the brand? That is it. That's it. Simple, straightforward question. Do you know the brand or you don't know the brand? That is brand recognition. So you're not asking a question, when did you observe the brand? Where did you observe the brand? Did you touch and feel the brand? Did you buy the brand? What kind of experience did you have the brand? None of these questions are asked. Are you able to recognize the brand? Not recognize the brand. Let's say I'm walking into a mall. In a distance, I find a bike parked. And from a distance, I can make out it's a Harley Davidson. That's a brand recognition. I don't even go near to the brand. The crowd around, the pull of the brand, what it gives, or the brand logo. Probably some of these gives you a kind of a cue or a trigger. You're recognizing the brand. Okay, now the question is, why is brand recognition so important? Should we even consider? Because we're not even asking the question, have you bought the brand or not bought the brand? We're just telling, are you recognizing the brand, not recognizing the brand? Why do you think this is important? Some interesting studies have been done. This was for a few peanut butter brands. A simple experiment was done where a sample was called and they were given 2 brands of peanut butter. One brand of peanut butter had very low quality of peanut butter, but It was about a very known brand name, very well-known brand name. So let's get the formula right. Very low quality peanut butter with a hugely recognized brand name. On the other side, on the packaging, they had an unrecognized brand name with a top quality of peanut butter. Now the question to you, all of you, is which one would have customers recognized and which one would have customers said, this is my most preferred brand? I want you guys to think. Take a while, think for a minute. You're talking about peanut butter. Peanut butter packed so well of low quality with an amazing brand name versus a peanut butter of very high quality in a package which is unknown. Where do you think the tractions would have come for the customer in terms of pure recognition? Perfect, Alvin, one with a better brand name. This is how we connect. This is the power of recognition. So what are brands striving for? Is my brand is aware in customers' mind. So once this awareness is created, then you get into what's called a brand recall. A brand recall is where you're trying to mask a camouflage few of the components of the brand. Let me give an example to make you understand this. I'm going to ask you a question. Which is that one brand of detergent which is yellow in color? Can you guess? A brand of detergent which is yellow in color. Because we know most of the brands of detergent are blue in color. But I'm asking, there's one specific brand, at least in early days, which was yellow in color, white in color. Which is that brand? Okay, the brand which is got a yellow color and then became whitish is Nirma. Or I ask you a question, which of the advertisement which talks about a girl going around in circles for almost 30, 40 years? They did not even change the advertisement. Again, the answer would be Nirma. Right? This is what a brand recall is. See, what happens in a recall is you're trying to camouflage the brand, you're trying to ask the customer, are you able to recall the brand by giving a few cues or triggers? It can be on packaging, it can be on product usage, it can be on taste, it can be on looks, it can be on feel, it can be on celebrity, it can be on messaging, it can be on anything. Based on that, if a customer comes back and says, I know the brand and name the brand has got a high recall. The third of the measures of awareness is top of the mind. See, top of the mind is something like this. Let's say if I'm going to ask you a question, can you reel out all the IT companies, the big IT companies in India? The answer response would be TCS, Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, BFL, Mindtree. But the first brand name, what you said, TCS, is what's called top of the mind. So what happens at the top of the mind is you also know other brands. You're also able to probably reveal the other brand names, but one brand name comes right on the top. On similar lines, if I do an experiment and ask a question, which is that one brand of detergent which you like or comes top to mind? The answer can be Surf or Surf Excel. If I push you, prod you, and ask what other brands come to your mind, you could talk about brands like Tide, you can talk about Ariel, you could talk about Guddy, you could talk about Nirma, you could talk about Power Detergent, like that you could have 100 other brands. But what is the top of the mind? Very clear. In this case, the top of the mind is Surf. Right? The top of the mind is Surf. This is what the concept of top of the mind is. The last of concepts in awareness is dominance. So what do we mean by dominance? I ask a question, tell me one beer brand, tell me the beer brand, right, what you prefer. And you say it's Kingfisher and it's only Kingfisher. No other brand I know, neither no other brand I would buy. When customers keep telling this, we call this as dominance. So then what is the role of a brand manager? Through advertising or through any of the components of the sales, promotion, marketing, any of these, what he's trying to do. First and foremost, can I create a recognition in customer's mind? Is he aware of the brand in terms of recognition? So once the recognition happens, is the customer able to recall the brand, right, by giving a kind of a clue? It can be masked or not so masked. Third is when you have so many brands, is my brand coming right on the top. It's called top of the mind. And finally, I want to be the only brand in customers' head. It's called dominance. Okay, a very interesting story. Let me share with you. Intel. Intel, famous marketing campaign. What was it called? Let's see who guesses it right. Very interesting campaign. Ran for the last 30 years and it's still running on. Intel's famous marketing campaign. What is that famous marketing campaign called? Let's see who gets it right. Ingredient branding. Perfect, Alvin. As usual. So fast. What's it called? It was called as the Intel Insight Campaign. It's called ingredient branding. You got it right. It was called as the Intel Insight Campaign. So what is so special about Intel Insight Campaign? You find that everywhere, right? You find that Intel Inside on the packaging of the product. It's found on your laptop. It's found everywhere. Right? It's found everywhere. How do you think it's a such a stunner? Intel pulled it off in style when no company was even daring to think on these lines. Intel did it in style. How do you think Intel could have pulled off such a brilliant strategy? I would call it as never before, never again in the history of marketing. Mark those words, never before, never again in the history of marketing. That is the Intel Insight campaign. What makes Intel so powerful? Through this campaign. But believe me, you also need to remember when I buy a laptop, I buy a Toshiba, or I buy a Lenovo, or I buy a Dell, or I buy an Apple. I don't ask for Intel. I don't even care what goes in inside my laptop or any of my devices. But even though it makes my device to tick, to work, that's the heart and soul of my device. But okay, I understand that, okay, I need to have an Intel i7 core, whole lot of stuff, i8 or i10, whatever the latest comes in. That's one component. But nevertheless, why do you think they would have done this ingredient component, what do you call ingredient branding, like what Alvin has put up there? What would have been the rationale? Where would these guys would have got such a great idea? And how they would have convinced the HP, the IBM those days, now it's a Lenovo or a Toshiba or a Matsushita, to all of these guys to put the name of Intel right on the device and on the packaging. Any guesses? It's a stunner. It's a stunner of a marketing strategy. Any guesses? I know it's a tough one. So what Intel did was there was a compulsion for Intel to do this. At one point of time, Intel was getting carried away with numbers. They said 286, 386, 486. Right? They were doing a lot of number games into their Intel microchip or semiconductors. They called it themselves 286, 386, 486. And then you also had competitors who were trying to do similar kind of stuff like x86, y86, z86, and they're not able to differentiate. Then they came out with the Pentium, Pentium 1, Pentium 2, Pentium 3, Pentium 4. Then they came with a Celeron, right? And then now they talk about i6, i7, iCore, right? They've used some kind of an alphanumeric into the branding. But they felt if you have to make it edgy, something has to be everlasting, edgy to get that leading edge. Something has to be made, something that zing factor or something called a mojo factor. They went after this Intel Insight campaign so that the eternity of the brand or brand longevity, we spoke of brand longevity, the brand goes on for a longer time. So what they did was, this was the master stroke. They go and connect with the Lenovos or the IBMs or the Toshibas or the HPs of the world, and they give a very strong business proposition. And the proposition runs like this. If you or the client like Toshiba or Matsushita or Lenovo or HP put up the brand name of Intel on the device, we give you 2% off on the next billing cycle. Or if you are willing to put up in the advertisements when you are spending and driving it, we will give you 5% off on your next billing cycle. That was a masterstroke. Got it? They approached HP, they approached IBM, they approached Toshiba, and they gave a value proposition. Simple, straightforward, hard-hitting value proposition. They persuaded all of these manufacturers to put up the Intel logo on the devices, they gave 2% off on the next billing cycle. If they were willing to put it up in the advertisements, whatever the HP and the Lenovo's ran, they gave a 5%. Time went past. 6 months later, 1 year later, they were trying to look at the number of impressions what Intel had. It's called share of voice, SOV. They wanted to find the kind of impressions, cumulative of all of these advertisements, products put together, the Intel name, how far flung it has been spread. At one point of time, they lost count and then they said it should have crossed 1 billion mark in terms of impressions, both in advertisements and in the devices where the Intel inside logo has been stuck. That's the power of ingredient branding. So what has the brand done? Let's go back. A product category, we're talking about product category like a semiconductor or a microchip where a customer doesn't comes and buys in a store, where even a recognition is not needed. They take the art of marketing to next level, and every time when you search for a laptop, the first thing what you search, the first and the last thing what you search, is it an Intel powered laptop? So now take a call. I want you to think. The Intel Insight campaign, was it a recognition, recall, top of the mind, dominance? I want to have an answer from all of you. Think. So what was it amongst all these four? Intel, was it recognition, recall, top of the mind, dominance? Exactly, Alvin, you got it right. It's a classic case of dominance, right? And that's the reason why when it comes to semiconductor, they are the largest in terms of market shares. None can come near, at least for the devices like laptops, the conventional devices, they are the absolute market leader. That's a masterstroke. So now you'll be understanding what a strong brand is. Yeah, but of course, Intel is also losing its plot thanks to Qualcomm coming in, and Qualcomm's ascendancy is because of other reasons. Like we changed our device, we have moved on to tablets, and we have moved on to mobile phones, where Intel did not get its act right. So conventional laptops, conventional devices, these guys are market shares. But when it comes to the latest, Qualcomm is beating Intel all around. Let's wait and see how the game pans out. But till that time, when it comes to few specific devices, Intel is the absolute market leader, dominance. So we call this is what's called as strength of the brand. So what are we talking about? Set of assets. And just we spoke about one asset, and that one asset is brand awareness. That we got the whole lot of other assets. The other one is perceived quality, most important. So remember, always, it's not actual quality, it's perceived quality. People need to perceive that you are of quality, your product is of quality. But it doesn't mean that actual quality is not important, right? The actual quality gets accentuated when you have your perceived quality. Let me tell you the story about Audi. Audi in 1980s was seen as a very shoddy brand, right? In terms of performance, in terms of quality, there are a lot of question marks. Right? The brand did everything possible to go over the hill. It tried to get its rehaul on its engine. It got some of the best and latest of technology. It also changed the shape multiple times. It got into some strategic alliances. It tried to do many things, but still, the brand was carrying a baggage. So, what do you mean by baggage? Baggage is a past history. Even though the brand attempted to bring in a lot of changes, the brand was seen as on quality front not up to the mark. So it took a lot of time, effort, energy to change these perceptions. So go back, even though the quality is great, the perceived quality of Audi was not that good, and it also probably needed tremendous efforts to change that perceived quality. Let's come to India's story. Indian automobile industry and the company again tries to do everything possible in the passenger car segment, but when it comes to the trucks, what we call HGVs, heavy good vehicle, or probably our LCVs, light commercial vehicle. These guys are market leaders, none to beat them. But when it comes to passenger cars, there's a big trouble, big issue. Which brand are we talking of? Any guesses, Alvin? We just spoke about Audi. Now we're talking about an Indian brand, an automobile brand, struggles in the passenger car segment, but very dominant when it comes to trucks. They just don't get their acts right when it comes to passenger car. Which brand are we talking of? Any guesses? No, Alvin, you got it wrong this time. It's not Mahindra. Okay, Mahindra, yeah, but Mahindra is very successful. Right? All the SUVs are doing extremely well, Alvin. XUVs, probably TUVs, except for the KUV. Scorpio was such a road blazer. XUV is a road blazer. Mahindra exports large amount of cars around the globe, and Mahindra is not. Okay, the answer is Tata Motors. Tata Motors are very dominant when it comes to trucks, none to beat them, right? But when it comes to automobile, passenger cars, they struggle. Any reasons why they struggle? The answer is simple, not far to look for. They're seen as truck manufacturers, and they're good as taxi manufacturers. That's another baggage what they carry. Thanks to Tata Sumo in early days, thanks to Tata Indica, people automatically associate Tata Motors with either heavy goods vehicle or good in diesel engines or good in taxi segment, but not good in the passenger car segment. Might be wrong. So what should Tata Motors do now if they have to build a brand? What should Tata Motors do? TAMO, TAMO, Tata Motors do if they have to change its brand story? The answer is simple, it has to change its perceived image. So more it becomes much more in terms of perceived quality, the brand would take off. Till that time, whatever it does is going to be trouble. So that's the power of perceived quality. The third, of course, is if you go back, it's about brand association. What are these brand associations? For example, Nike. Nike has got an association with Michael Jordan. A Ferrari has got an association with Formula One. Or a brand like the biggest selling cigarette brand like Marlboro has also got a very strong association with Formula One. And that's exactly what Tata Motors also attempt when they got the Jaguar Land Rover JLR. They wanted to have some very strong association with the Formula One circuit. Right? So more you have a brand having a strong brand association is seen as a very powerful brand. And that's a third of the brand asset. The first asset, what we said, was brand awareness. The second asset was perceived quality. The third asset is brand association. Association can be anything. It can be a logo, it can be a symbol. At one point of time, Air India had a very strong association in the Maharaja. Asian Paints had a strong association in Gattu. That was a massive what Asian Paints used for a long time. Or Amul has a strong association. What is the association Amul carries? Amul for its dairy products, Amul for its ice cream, cutting across products, it carries a very strong association. What is that association the brand carries? Any guesses? Taste of India, brilliant. Taste of India is one, which is a strapline. They also got a Amul character, the brand character. What is the brand character called? So 1967, Amul girl, called as Amul Moped girl. 1967 to 2019-20, right? It's gone into Limca Book of World Records. No other brand character has shook up the markets like what the Amul Moped girl has done, right? And the ad agency which did this from Mumbai called Dakuna, DACUNA. Dakuna. Dakuna was the ad agency which did this Amul created this Amul Moped Girl way back in 1965-67, stood the test of time. But what is the speciality of this Amul Moped Girl? Somehow they kept this brand character alive and kicking by doing one style of advertising. What is that one style of advertising? So what I'm trying to tell is all of this is what brand association is. So the Amul Moped Girl, the Taste of India, all of these are seen as a brand asset. So what did Dakuna agency do with the Amul Moped Girl? They went something of one specific kind of messaging and they kept it intact for last 70, 80 years, or almost 90 years. So what do these guys do? Any guesses? It is called as topical advertising. This is a topical advertising. So whatever is topical. So probably if a coronavirus breakout, Amul would have already come out with an advertisement for coronavirus. Right? Or when you have a Brad Pitt coming to Delhi, going around in auto rickshaw, when he did that, you also have an advertisement. Or when you have Richard Branson coming to Delhi, right, and then sweeping away a hair hostess from the ground, just swept away a hair hostess, that will be on the billboards next day. It's called as topical. Whatever is the current topic is what the Amul Moped Girl was built. The point, the case in point here is that's a brand association, right? And then you've got other proprietary assets, which part of competitor. It can be the trademark, it can be the label, it can be the jingle itself, it can be anything. Right? The list is long. So when you do all this, you have a strong brand loyalty where customers keep coming back again and again. So this is the theoretical concept of what brand equity is. So what is brand equity? CBB, what we saw in the morning, that's also customer-based brand equity. So if you go back and rewind, Kevin Lane Keller talks about brand equity as differential effect brand knowledge has on customer response to marketing efforts of the brand. That's the brand equity. I'll repeat. CBB, customer-based brand equity of Kevin Lane Keller, talks about differential effect the brand knowledge has on the customer response to marketing efforts of the brand. And this concept of brand equity is by a gentleman by name David Acker. He is a branding guru. David Acker is a branding guru of repute. He talks about brand equity as a set of assets linked to a brand name and symbol that adds value to the customer and to the customer's firm. And that's the brand with 5 set of assets. Okay. So let's move on. We're going to talk about brand valuation. How are we going to value a brand? Broadly, there are 3 methods, 3 broad methods, and under these methods, you got another half a dozen methods. Cost-based, price-based, customer-based. Right, and cost-based, you got maximum number of permutation combination. Historical cost, replacement cost, market value, discounted cash flow, brand contribution, interbrand method. The last of the methods is the one what we saw in the first slide. If you go back on a rewind. What is the first slide? We started off with a bang, right? And then we said this is the interbrand method of brand ranking. That's the method. Apple at $214 billion, Google at $155, Amazon at $101 billion, Coca-Cola at $66 billion. Right? They've used this interbrand method. How are we going to calculate this? A short while from now, we have to get into the nuances of how this brand valuation is done. So let's start with a very easy method. The first method in your cost-based method is called as historical cost method. And this method is very simple. What you do is right from the day of inception, every expenditure, what you're incurring on the brand, you add up together, and that's a historical cost method. Simple, straightforward. Let's say I'm launching a brand in 1984. 1984 to March 18, 2020. Every head of expenditure, what I've spent on the brand. For example, I spent 100 crores on advertisement in 2018. I've used Mahendra Singh Dhoni giving 25 crores for 1 year as brand celebrity endorser, and then I've called Alia Bhatt. I've given her 10 crores. I've gone after sales promotion. I've given a price discount. So every other expenditure I keep accumulating right from inception to the present date is historical cost method. Got it? Very simple, straightforward. But what is the downside of this method? Huge downside. A person who's buying the brand is least bothered how much you spend the money on what, because there could have been a lot of inefficiencies in your spending. You have put your money in all the wrong things. So, as a new owner of the brand, I might not probably give that kind of a value what I give. So, it's very subjective. You know, it's objectively done. The perspective changes, and that's where this model gets a hit somewhere. The second of the method is what's called as the replacement method. The replacement method is simple, again straightforward, where we talk about in terms of if a brand of 1986 has to be created today, considering a whole lot of factors like inflation, right, and the appreciation or depreciation of rupee value, you're looking at all the economic indicators, right? You're trying to probably do a kind of an adjustment to all your changes that happens on the financial aspects from economic front, and then you got your launch cost, production cost, administrative cost. You add up everything and you have to get a brand today. What will it cost is a replacement cost method. Again, very subjective, because sometimes you could have splurged money on a lot of things. Again, as a person who's buying the brand might not get overly carried away, lost a lot of inefficiencies could have crept in. That's a replacement cost method. So in simple, at today's value, today's rupee value, after indexing your inflation, if you have to build a brand, how much will it cost is replacement cost method. So first we saw historical cost method, then we saw replacement cost method. The third, little bit of sense coming in, and there are some numbers coming in where there's a direction and purpose. We call this as a market value method. So what is market value method? Focus here is very simple, straightforward again. What we see here is a list of takeovers that have happened in the Indian subcontinent in the last 15, 20 years, and these are real-time numbers. For example, Kelvinator, the refrigerator manufacturer, was taken over by Whirlpool for 2,500 crores. Farix was taken up by Heinz for 2,100 crores. Thumbs Up was purchased by Coke for 1,800 crores. Incidentally, Thumbs Up was owned by Parle, Ramesh Chauhan. He sold off his company to Coke to 1,800 crores. Another toothpaste brand called Sibaka was sold for Colgate to 1,310 crores. And Goodnight, we use it even today. The mosquito repellent. A local entrepreneur builds this brand and sells it off to Godrej to 800 crores. They're all laughing all the way to the bank. Okay, now the point is, let's focus on something which is in red. Sibaka, Colgate. Sibaka was sold to Colgate for 1,310 crores. So now the question to all of you is, I want you to know the valuation of Colgate. Can you attempt? At least can you think? You've got some numbers. Based on these numbers, you need to arrive at a particular number. Sibaka was taken over by Colgate for 1,310 crores. I'm asking you to find out what is the brand valuation of Colgate. Think. So the question is, Sibaka has been taken over by Colgate for 1,310 crores. So the valuation has been done probably by an investment banking firm or by a consulting firm, an Ernst& Young or a PricewaterhouseCoopers or a McKinsey's, or probably some of the top consulting firms would have done this number. So we can take these numbers as sacrosanct. They would have done a lot of due diligence. Right? So based on all those due diligence and number crunching, they would have bought this brand for a particular value. Right? So to go back and rewind, Sibaka was bought by Colgate for 1,310 crores. I'm asking you a straightforward question. If Sibaka takes over Colgate for 1,310 crores, what is the brand value of Colgate in rupee terms? Simple, straightforward question. I know you guys are hungry. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back post lunch. Any guesses? Well, let me give you a hint. Let us say Sibaka to Colgate. Colgate is 17 times bigger in market share. Right? Get it right. Sibaka to Colgate. Colgate is 17 times bigger in terms of market shares. So now tell me, what is the brand value of Colgate? So here in this case, we're looking at market share, 17 times bigger. It's a no-brainer. It's so easy. Got it? Any responses? Perfect, Alvin. 22,270 crores. So you have used the base, right? We have used the base. So we can take a market share, right? Or we can take any other lead indicators in terms of price realizations. It can be in terms of premiums. It can be in terms of profitability. So many things can really be considered when you arrive at a particular value. So what is this called? A market value method, right? So we've seen three methods, what's called as an historical cost method, right? And then we've seen a market value method, and then we've seen a replacement cost method. The first two methods are subjective, not in vogue. This is a shortcut, right? This is a kind of a quick fix. Again, a lot of anomalies, a lot of gaps to come in, but not foolproof. Right, you're just looking at a market share, because who knows, Sibaka can be a very weak brand. When you compare a Sibaka Colgate with a brand like Promise, the market value, the market share might not be that equivalent. So a lot of subjectivity comes in. So not seen as a foolproof, but a quick fix shortcut method where you can arrive at a particular brand value. And the next method, okay, there's a number. Colgate has got turnover 17 times higher than Sibaka, 1317, 22,270 crores. Got it? We call this as market value method. This is a method called DCF method, and this is a method used by most of the chartered accountants. See, what happens is whenever you want to take a loan with any of the banks or with any financial institution, they'll ask for a valuation of your company. So when you go to your company chartered accountant, he would do using this method. But there's a big downside in this method. So what they do is they look at your sales they project the sales for next 10 years, S1, S2, S3, S4, then they have a discounting factor attached, and then they'll arrive at a particular number, right? Again, the big downside, not an accepted method, because you're looking at a present value, PV, right? Sales, S1 is sales first year, second year, it takes on to 10th year, and then you got a discount factor, 15%, you arrive at a particular number. But the point is, how are you able to predict your next 7th year, 8th year, 9th year, 10th year sales numbers with that accuracy? Just think for a moment, right? Economy is in shambles. The world global economy is in shambles today. Stock markets in shambles. Sales are coming hurtling down thanks to coronavirus. So one or two blips in a couple of years can make things go haywire. So, and you're still trying to predict what's the value of your brand would be 10 years from now. That's the biggest downside of this method. You could always come back and talk about I'm using a discounting factor, but nevertheless, a lot of question marks arise. right? So used by chartered accountants for company valuation. That's a DCF method. The last one is what's famously called as interbrand method. Go back, the first slide what I showed. When we look at a probably an Apple at 215 billion US dollar, they've been valued by interbrand. Accepted, renowned, Business Week, together in tandem, they do this brand valuation. So here what they do is they look at three components. One is brand profits. When we talk about brand profits, you're considering 3 years weighted average profits. And then you're taking a price equity. Price equity is a stock market multiple. It's called as the price to equity ratio. The price to equity ratio, if some of you have got a head for finance, you'll understand PE, EPS, earning per share, all of that is a few financial terms good for stock market investing. So price to equity tells you in terms of the market price ruling in the stock market at particular point of time to earning per share. So what are you considering? You're considering the stock market prices, you're considering your net profits per share, and then from there you're arriving at a PE ratio. Right? The third one is a brand strength. A brand strength is where a little bit of subjectivity comes in, where you have a few pointers which are considered, let's say, how innovative the brand is, or how international the brand is. Third is the brand in terms of longevity. You've got some 6 to 7 aspects which is considered. And a questionnaire is sent to the top vice presidents, CEOs of marketing, who's of marketing, and these gentlemen do a rating on your brand. And then a weighted average is considered on your brand profits, the P multiple is taken, and then you have a brand strength for a particular brand which goes to a survey, and all of this is multiplied, and you get an interbrand method. Got it? So what we'll do is we'll come back after lunch. We'll spend an hour and a half or 2 hours. We'll quickly wrap up on brand naming. But before that, we'll also get into interbrand method, try to understand how this brand valuation happens, and then we'll come back. I've got a small problem. I'll showcase this problem to you once we come back from lunch. We'll close out on this problem, and then we'll quickly move on. And finally, we'll touch base on the assignment, what you're supposed to deliver. We'll have a comprehensive connect on the assignment. Okay, good afternoon. Take care. Bye. See you. Any questions?